Hey, welcome back to my channel. This is Jason, also known as Omnis Prime, and I wanted to kind of give you an update of what's been going on here with my channel recently. So my last video I have here was about a week ago. Um, I've been sick, so I've been trying to put together content. I'm still recovering from it, but with that being said, um, I've run into a couple of roadblocks when it comes to completing the reviews for the Reacher series. I'm gonna still be putting it together to get it complete because there's only 3 episodes that are left. But the problem that I've been running into is every time I upload a video for it, Amazon puts a copyright claim on it, and it prevents me from being able to post it. And if you've seen the other ones, you've seen that I've had to do all kinds of like changes and alterations to the videos to even get them uploaded to where we can have some put together. With the last one, they there was like no audio at all from the show, and the show has like a huge watermark that's over it. It distorts it so you can't even really see the video footage. You can kind of see the subtitles, so you can kind of follow along with what's going on in the video. But even that wasn't good enough, and they wanted to cut things out. So I'm like, this is fair use, but as soon as you upload it, YouTube puts that claim on there and prevents me from being able to have it to where people can view it. So I'm gonna have to find a way to get around that to where you'll be able to watch the video so you can complete uh, the set, as it were, for that series. I really want to get that completed. So that's a goal I'm working for in the short term. The other thing that has kept me busy, and I guess kind of helped me in my days that I was sick, was playing through a game in my backlog. So I feel happy that I was able to complete it. I completed it last night, and that was Persona 5 Royal. I was playing that on the PlayStation 5, and I have to say, it was a good experience. I'll put a separate video out for that, and that'll go into what I experienced with it. I put in, I want to say, about 165 hours into the game, something like that. I did start a new game plus. Um, I don't think I'm gonna play straight through that again right now. I just wanted to see what you get with it, and there were some things that I didn't complete when I was playing through my first time through. I thought I would have more time, and I ran out of time. So um, it's like an incentive for me to go back, so I can go ahead and complete that. And what those are, I'll go over in the other video. And the other thing that's been going on is, of course, this is not something I'm going to really go into in my channel, but there's been the Depp versus Heard case. I've been following that so I can kind of see what's going on as far as how um, men and women are viewed when it comes to domestic abuse and defamation. And I just found it interesting to watch, but I don't want to comment one way or the other on that because that's not what my channel's about. So um, that's one thing that I've been looking at, and it's a train wreck. It's definitely made me more thankful of the relationship I have with my wife. I don't have anything that's like that going on whatsoever. Um, but as far as like what my channel is about, there is one or two things that came up that a lot of people have opinions on, and some people are being kind of, I guess, bold is, I guess, a positive way to say it. Um, So Starfield got delayed, and if you watched my backlog video, you'll know that that's one of the games I was looking forward to during the end of the year to get into. Um, so that one got delayed. Another game that got delayed was Redfall, which is also from Bethesda and Microsoft. Um, One of the development studios from Bethesda was working on that. I wanted to give my opinion on that, and everybody seems to think that, and it's a little weird because it seemed like they announced this is for Starfield. They announced a date and they had it set, they put the video out to go ahead and let you know that it would be coming in November, I believe it was. Um, I'd have to go back and check the exact date, but I believe it was set for November, right? So typically, the way that Bethesda Game Studios does their announcements, they have a hard date and they meet that date, and they usually don't announce a date until they're close to the release window. They don't tend to do it where it's like a few years out and go, "Hey, we'll get there when we get there," or anything like that. Um, to kind of like say like Square Enix, they're known for announcing game titles, and then you're just like, well, I hope that comes out sometime soon. But most of the time, you're looking out 4 or 5 years out from when it was announced to get to play it. And that was kind of like the case with, like, for instance, like Final Fantasy VII Remake. We were all excited for it, and they kept teasing and teasing Final Fantasy VII in all kinds of different ways before they even got to remake. And then they made the announcement, and then we still had to wait for it to come out. And who knows when we're going to get to play part two. Hopefully, we'll find out like this week or so. But I'm getting off track here because this is about Bethesda Game Studios and Microsoft, right? So everybody seems to believe, or at least that's the general consensus online, is the reason for the delay is because the game's not ready and Microsoft has a problem with management, managing their studios and getting production done. Because the last games that were released during like fall winter area. We had Forza Motorsports, or not Motorsports, Forza Horizon 5, and which was well received. Everybody seemed to love it. And it was, a complete package. Looks great, plays great, good frame rate, plenty to do, right? And then after that, we got Halo Infinite. Halo Infinite was delayed a year or so, and it got quite a bit of polish from what was originally shown. The part where people find it failing is in the way that they structured the multiplayer. And this is the first time they've done multiplayer to where it's free to play. So they were trying to schedule out seasons for added content and things like that. For myself, I don't play Halo really on multiplayer all that much unless it's like local. That's the way I've always played it. I'm not really big into playing it online with other people. I like playing it against people that I know. We used to just get on the couch, play locally, screen hack, or try not to get caught doing that, and just have fun. It's the competition. It's just between us, and we were just playing for fun. I know that there's a large community that plays online, and they like to earn rewards and unlock a bunch of weapons packs and things like that as they're going through different skins and not complete, but compete online and level up. And that's why they tend to pick up these shooters, is for that. They're not too concerned about playing through the story as much. Halo's a bit different, in my opinion, because most people did pick it up for the single player, and the multiplayer was just a thing that gave it its long tail. But with that game, most people would play through the campaign and do it co-op. Now, this version of Halo Infinite, that is, did not include couch co-op at release. I've beat the game already. I don't believe they've released uh, local co-op as of yet. So these are features that still have not been completed. That a lot of the people that are playing um, really want to have there, as well as like Forge, so they you can have more play value out of creating your own maps and things like that. But so because of what's happened with 343's handling of Halo Infinite and having it delayed and still not having it complete, they're looking at what Bethesda Game Studios is doing as another continuation of that. So they want to blame Phil Spencer for that, right? This is the way I look at it. When they purchased Bethesda's like whole group of studios, Microsoft said that they're going to pretty much let them be a little bit more autonomous, do their thing, build games as they had, and go from there. And so that's why when people say that it's been delayed because the game's not finished, it's not complete, it's got to have a bunch of problems. Um, there's a games journalist who came out and said, and I'm not mentioning their name because they don't need me to mention their name. They said that what they heard from um, Starfield, it's compared to Cyberpunk 2077 as being that unpolished, right? This is what I'll say about Cyberpunk 2077. Okay. I understand that it was made for Xbox One and PS4 and for PC. That's what they originally had intended, right? But while it was in development, new consoles got released. That being the Xbox Series consoles and the PlayStation 5. Okay. Those were more powerful hardware to play the game on. And upon release, and I'm just talking about the release, not talking about the patches, not the 2.21, or is it patch 2.21, I think it was what it was, that was recently released that changed a bunch of things in the game. I'm not talking about how it is now. But when it launched, I picked it up actually in two places. We got it for Xbox, which was the Xbox One version. We got the collector set. Um, I'll, I'm going to be putting a separate video up for that eventually, because I'm doing more with Cyberpunk 2077, given that they've done updates on it. But when it was released, I played it on PC and I played it on the Xbox Series X. Even though it was the Xbox One version, that's where I played it. There is a difference between the two. The PC one is runs far smoother. You have a lot more things that you can tweak as far as visual details, graphical performance versus frame rate. So you can adjust it how you need to on PC. On the Xbox Series X, it ran great. That's my experience. Did it have some bugs that came up? Yeah. Yeah, there was some bugs. Was there anything that was game breaking? No. The I was able to play it from start to finish. I didn't have to worry about losing any saves, it corrupting or breaking my system or anything like that. And I put in over 200 something hours into the game, and that was per machine that I played it on. So on PC, I played it on my gaming laptop and played it on the Xbox Series X, and I beat it multiple times. Played it through three different play styles, for your origins to go through, and played it differently each time, and I had a good experience with it. And that was my experience with Cyberpunk 2077. Are the gripes that were against the game valid? In some cases. Now, the cases I don't find it valid is for those people that were thinking that Cyberpunk 2077 was supposed to be like Grand Theft Auto in some way. That you would just run the city, have the freedom to play like that, and then there was like a story mode that you would play through. But for the most part, you would be able to go to, um, you know, in Grand Theft Auto, you would be able to run different missions where you would, possibly go like play darts and things like that. That was never the premise of what Cyberpunk 2077 was supposed to be. But for some people, they thought that's what they were going to get. Um, Another game that was released that was like this, that I believe was worse off than Cyberpunk 2077, was No Man's Sky. Now, No Man's Sky is like a it's an interesting story for the game's development because it's almost like they had a start where it was rough and then had this character arc where it got better over time and got redemption in the end, right? And that was all because of the team that developed it continued to build upon the promises that they had made originally. Now, Sean Murray had come out during its development early on and had said a bunch of things about what his vision of the game would be, right? And they had partnered up with Sony, and there was a hard date that they had to hit and to get the game released. They had a flooding of their studios that caused a bunch of problems, and when it was released, there was people that were not paying attention to what was going on with the game, and I think they were hoping that it was going to be something like Star Citizen, which has not yet been released, that people are still paying money into. And the game has been in development for, I want to say, over a decade. Star Citizen is a whole nother thing that I'll get into at some other time. They haven't gotten any of my money, but it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't know why people are still paying money into this right now. But with No Man's Sky, right, with its development, it came out and people seem to have forgotten that it's not what was initially promised. My expectations for the game, when I got it at launch and I got it on the PS4, um, my expectations were I would start off on a deserted planet, hop planet to planet, just explore, see the world, just chill and relax and just enjoy the experience of going through that without getting into like multiplayer battles and stuff like that. Um, I wasn't looking for that game to be anything like that. And the reason why I had that is I was watching the different trailers, I was watching the different interviews, and not going off of what was initially said because things changed with that game during its development. And then it got released, and for me, it was something that tied me over from between like Mass Effect games because I was looking for something that was something in space that would last a while, and then I could just drop it whenever um, Mass Effect was gonna release the next game in the series. So with No Man's Sky, um, yeah, if you look at the game now and you picked it up, you would find that it is a completely different game from what it was released as, and they had fulfilled the promises of what they had set out to do. And I I liked it when it released. I like it even more what it's become, and it shows that a delay of a game can really help because for, I want to say, near a year from the game's release, that studio and Sean Murray just went radio silent. They didn't want to tell anybody anything that was going on, what they were doing. Any other studio, especially if they're run by EA, would probably be like, you know what, it got released, it didn't do well. We're moving on to the next thing. Um, if you bought the game, you didn't like it, it's so sad. That's what the game is. But we have this new product for you, and look forward to that. And I think I don't want to pick on EA too much because there's other studios that do the same thing. They put it out there, and that's what you got. Sorry. But with Hello Games, they went ahead and they kept going and they built it and built it and built it. And now they have something that's really good. So if they ever do like a No Man's Sky 2 and take their time with it, I think they'll have another hit. And if you remember, when No Man's Sky was released and people were getting it and they were like, "This isn't what I want. Give me my money back," to Sony on the PlayStation 4 because you bought it digitally, had a problem with their return policy. It was this whole big thing that was going on with that. So going back to Starfield, I know there was a lot of information where I was just kind of going here and there. This all goes together, so I hope you follow along so you can see where I'm getting at. So with Starfield and Microsoft, I believe, yeah, they looked at that and they see, the issues with releasing a game that is not complete or is buggy, or in some cases broken. That's a problem, and it's not something that you can kind of take back. It took Hello Games several years to get there to where they could say, "Hey, we messed up, but here we delivered on our promise, and it didn't cost you anything else. You just had to wait for it to be done." With Cyberpunk, there's to be a completed update that just released here. I want to say in February, which was to be the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series consoles update. So you got the ray tracing, well, kind of ray tracing capabilities, graphical upgrades, and performance that was meant for the new systems. Those were put in place. They also altered some of the ways that you can play through that game. So we essentially had to wait until they got that completed. It wasn't available at launch. They also did some updates to where it would play better on the Xbox One and also on the PlayStation 4. And now you can purchase it through the PS4's digital store, where with Cyberpunk 2077, only on the PlayStation did they pull it to where you couldn't purchase the game. Because for some reason it was deemed that it was too buggy to play on their console. I don't know because I didn't play it on there, so I can't really speak to anybody's experience on the PlayStation. But this could have been something that, or should have been something that they did originally with No Man's Sky, but they didn't do it with that one because I believe they had invested in the development of that game themselves, that being Sony. Whereas with Cyberpunk, that was a CD Projekt developed, produced. I don't recall if it was produced by WB here. They may have had a hand because they did that with, I believe, with The Witcher. But in any case, with Starfield, I don't believe that the problem that they have right now is in overall development. I believe the game is probably finished right now. I believe they've actually probably already polished it and it's set to go and will run fine on Xbox Series consoles. Okay. Redfall, I know nothing on. And the reason being is I haven't seen anything other than that trailer that they released. So I don't want to really speculate on what that is. we'll see shortly, I'm sure, at the next showcase that Microsoft's going to put out what's going on with Redfall. So that one, to me, seems like it was short in development. I think it's Machine Games that's developing that one. Um, um, it seems like it was supposed to be like a Left 4 Dead type of game. I didn't play those. They're very popular, but if it was like a game that I can play co-op with my wife and my kids, well, maybe not my kids because of the nature of what the game is. Those are the types of games I'm into. So it might be something that I play, but we didn't really get to see anything. So I don't know if it's first person or third person or, what you actually do in the game. Now, truth be told, we can say the same thing about Starfield. We haven't seen full on gameplay and what you would be doing. The description for it has been it's Skyrim in space. And it's one of those things that I don't know if you would call it endearing. Some people might with Bethesda Game Studio games when they're released. Um, if you had the experience of playing any of the Elder Scrolls or Fallout games when they initially released, you would know that they are pretty buggy. In fact, they kind of set the the bar as to what to expect from a open world type of game. So the expectation is that if you play an open world game, you'll run into bugs because the game world's so big. It's quite possible that the studio, when they're creating the game and they're play testing, that things are going to get missed. Like, we didn't know if we ran into this corner over and over and over, just having our character run there, that we would eventually fall through the ground. Oops, we'll patch that out. Um, Although I remember playing Fallout New Vegas was developed by a different studio, but I was playing Fallout 3 and this happened anyways. I'm walking and I just fall through the ground. So when that happens, I save often, so I just reload my save, see if it happens again. Okay, it didn't happen this time, so good. These are things that happen with these types of games. So I don't believe that it's necessary to delay the game until next year for that particular reason, for working out those types of bugs. It's something that Bethesda Game Studios has done, and if Microsoft's like, hey, build your games the way that you have, and go at it, we'll support you. That way you're not worried about this part or this aspect, of game development. You have the backing, you have the money, we have that all set. You just make the good games. That's not what I'm thinking that they're delaying it for. The reason that I believe that they've delayed Redfall and Starfield is for one thing in particular, and that has to do with Xbox Game Passes, their cloud stream gaming. Okay, and try and follow me along here because I don't see anybody talking about this in this way. Xbox Game Pass is the big thing that Microsoft is focused on because it's a subscription that they can get you for, if you're going to get the ultimate, I believe it's 15 a month, right? So if they have you at 15 a month and, you're going to go ahead and keep it for a year, right? That's $180 that you're spending for Ultimate. That gets you games to play on your Xbox consoles, to play on your PC, and to play through cloud streaming, right? So that's three places that can go ahead and get you right now, right? But there has been talk about getting it on, for instance, like Samsung devices, like a TV, or this puck, or some kind of small device that you would have that you just plug into your TV and play, and you would stream the game directly onto your TV. Okay, and that requires it to be able to run through the cloud streaming. And I believe they want to have Starfield and Redfall available, and on the boxes, saying, "Hey, you buy this small box. It costs, let's say, 99.99, right? You get this, and you get your subscription to Game Pass, because that's what you'll need in order to use this box. You will be able to play Starfield. You don't have to buy an Xbox Series console to play it. You don't have to get a powerful PC to run it. You can stream it directly on there as long as you have the internet and you have the subscription to the service. And you will find that um, the shortage that's going on right now for getting consoles, not so much for the Series S, but for like the Series X, that kind of gets thrown to the wayside, because now you just have to have this box that can do and handle the streaming of the games. And the box itself would be one purchase, but you'd have to purchase, like your own controller, and then you'd sync it to the box and stream it directly to your TV. So this is a product I think that would work well for anybody who already has a Series console and they want to have the ability to stream the games into other rooms, right? So you don't have to pick up your box and go to like your bedroom or your kid's room or whatever, right? And I believe this will also come with an introduction to more of a family plan for the Xbox Game Pass, so that while my kids are streaming it, say, in their room, I can still play my Game Pass games here on the console or play it on my PC and have those options available. That'll probably be above the Ultimate, so it might be something that becomes like a $20 a month deal in order to get into it. But I believe what they would need to have is some kind of flagship game that's going to get you on there, and that game is going to be Starfield. Redfall would be another one that you could pair with it, and I believe this is why they got pushed back to 2023, because that's when those devices should be hitting the market. Is more than likely going to be during Christmas time. It'll be new hardware, in a sense, that you could get that would be a companion to having an Xbox Series console. So not only that, from what I understand, with the testing that's being done, you can already stream right to your phone. So that would probably be the argument that people would have, is like, well, I can play it on my phone already. I don't need to get this device to connect to my TV. Well, that's the other great thing about it, is if Starfield is able to play well through cloud streaming, it should play well on your phone. So that's another set of audience that will be able to get it and play it on there. It's the incentive to go ahead and get on there and play it, but I think they want to have it slapped on the box of the new devices that they'll be connecting with your TV. And I know that people are going to say, well, I want the game. I don't care about cloud streaming. I want to get it now if they have already done. Well, this comes down to optimization, and I think that's what they need to make sure that they have. If they get the optimization correct to where it can stream well, when you're playing it on the Xbox Series consoles, or if you're playing it on PC, you'll have a better experience with the optimization. That may mean that you don't have as large of an install of a game to have on, your console or on your PC, which a lot of us would really like to see happen with a lot of these games, where they're pared down to where they're optimized to not take up as much um, hard drive space, because you're constantly having to shuffle games off or shuffle games on or get more storage. And, gaming's an expensive hobby already as it is, without the added cost that goes along with that. And that's where people will look at streaming as an option, because then it's not required to be, something local that you have to have installed. But that's kind of the other thing that's going on right now. Now that I've talked about what I believe is going on with Starfield, the other part of it is what's going on here with Sony's PlayStation Now and the PlayStation Plus subscription service. And I believe they released a date. I don't know it off the top of my head of when they're planning to enact these changes. I think it's here in the next couple of months or so. But it's to go ahead and combine the services. And I was originally planning to, because I just got the PlayStation 5, right? I've had it, I want to say, about a month now, that I hadn't been a PlayStation Plus subscriber in quite some time. So as soon as I got the PlayStation 5, we went ahead and got another subscription. We got it for a year. And then, these changes are happening here. I was thinking, you know what? Maybe I'll buy a few years of this and be set, you know. But Sony had put a block on any of that happening. So I might check again to see if I can do that now. But it's something that Microsoft allowed. They didn't mind you stacking years to go ahead and take advantage of the switch over from, well, I don't want to say switch over because that's not correct. Because you still have Xbox Live separate and you have the Game Pass is separate. But if you get, like, what I have is Ultimate, it's combined together and you have it as one service. You don't pay for two separate services that way. PlayStation Plus is a bit different because it's already called PlayStation Plus, but they're just incorporating PlayStation Now into it and changing their price structure. And if you already have PlayStation Plus, you get enrolled into it. If you have PlayStation Now, I'm not exactly sure how it's working because they kind of confuse things the way that they have it lined up. I'm sure if I look deeper into it, I'll be able to sort it out. It's just right now, because of the way they have things and out there and the information, it's a little confusing. I'm just going to wait until it actually releases and then take a look at it and see what I actually have or what's there. But with PlayStation Now, the majority of it was streaming, right? And that was an issue that a lot of people are having is, what if where I live, the service isn't good? That I'm not able to stream the games that I want to play. That's what I like about Game Pass is, even though cloud streaming is what the majority of people are looking at with PlayStation Now service, with Game Pass, you're able to use it as an option. For the most part, the games are available physically. I think there's only a handful that are only on cloud, but you would install it locally if streaming isn't an option for you. You just download it, install it locally, play it. PlayStation Now doesn't have that option available for certain games, and I think the games that don't have it, that'll be coming to the PlayStation Plus service. So I'm just going to refer to it as PlayStation Plus going forward here. It doesn't allow for, like, PlayStation 3 games to be installed locally and emulated on your system to where you can play it. You would have to rely on it being streamed. And I haven't tried that on Sony systems because I'm not sure what kind of quality we're going to get out of that. I don't know that we would see necessarily a good experience. So, like, if you had like a shooter game or anything that's going to require you to have like Twitch like reflexes in order to play through it and be successful, those don't lend themselves well to cloud streaming, and that's also true on Game Pass. And well, depending on where you live and the type of internet service you have, but it's not always just on your end. You also have how well it runs from the server, back to you, and the latency that's there. So there's a few factors there that I don't think we're there at as of yet. But a lot of the games I play are RPGs, so it's not necessarily something that's going to hit me as hard as it is anybody else who likes to play, for instance, like a shooter game or um, imagine playing a racing game where you're stuttering constantly. It's one of those things of you got to figure out what games are going to work well and work well when I'm talking about for streaming. So with the competition between the two, I think that it's fair to say that it's not really going to be about what plastic boxes are sold as a level of success between the hardware manufacturers of the game consoles. So the only one who's probably going to be different about it is going to be Nintendo. Nintendo does its own thing, and I love Nintendo for that. I love that they do their own thing because it gives me something different. Because there's so much that's similar between what's on PC, what's on Xbox, and what's on PlayStation. Between those companies, there's varying degrees of differences that are going to speak to different players. Be it the controller, be it the user interface, the exclusive games that you would be able to play, right? So those differences are why I have to have all of them. I don't like to pick one particular one and just stick with that because I like to have access to the different games to play because that's what I care about. I care about the games. I care about being able to carry those games forward, be it like with Microsoft's been really good about making sure that we're able to carry the games forward from the original generation, the 360 to Xbox One to the series consoles. We don't have all of them, right? We don't have all of the games, but we have a good chunk of the games that are available to bring forward. And they've found ways to go ahead and make it so we can play them and what they call entitlements. Entitlements is a way of acknowledging that you purchased the game and allowing you to continue to play it without having to buy it again. Whereas if you take like Nintendo, the original Nintendo was released, had all your cartridges, you played it there, right? Super Nintendo comes out, you couldn't use original Nintendo game in your Super Nintendo to play it there. So you had a separate system, a clean break. You had a different generation of games. You played it on, Super Nintendo games on Super Nintendo. Nintendo 64 games, you only played on the Nintendo 64. You couldn't play Super Nintendo games on the Nintendo 64. You couldn't play the original Nintendo games on there. The only place that they did it really any different was when they did the Game Boy. You had the Game Boy, you could play the Game Boy games on the Game Boy Color. You could play the Game Boy Color games on the Game Boy Advance, and along with the original Game Boy games on the Game Boy Advance. When the original Nintendo DS was released, you couldn't play Game Boy Color or original Game Boy games on there, but you could play Game Boy Advance games on the Nintendo DS. And so on and so on. And they kept trying to continue it on that way. Now they have, they kind of started to do that on the consoles that connected to your TV when they had the GameCube go to the Wii. You could play your GameCube games on the Wii, right? When you got the Wii U, I believe you couldn't play the GameCube games on there any longer. So with that, they started the virtual console, and that was a good way to go ahead and get that backwards compatibility going, through Nintendo products. And that's what a lot of people remember, is that it started with the Wii. You had the virtual console, and week after week they would release a few games that would be added to the library, and then you started to get some games that were outside of their library, such as like Genesis and believe TurboGrafx games were included in there. And it was a great service. People really want that virtual console released on the Switch, which has not happened. Instead, they've included it in the Nintendo Online service, and it sort of works. Um, for the most part, they have games on there that are like big hits that were released for the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and Genesis. And they have a few games for Nintendo 64 right now, right? Virtual console would have made it so that, I could just purchase whatever games I wanted and I would have it, you know. Or if they allowed the entitlement to continue over from what I already purchased on the Wii U, I'd have a whole bunch of games that I would be able to play there. But Nintendo decided not to do that this time around. So we're 5+ years into the cycle here for the Switch. And this is another thing that's come up recently is, what is Nintendo going to be doing for the next console? It's been rumored that there's a new console that's coming. And Nintendo's kind of, in a way, kind of shut down any talks about that. But Nintendo's been known to do that, to where they don't talk about something until they announce it. So it's that usual comment of, we don't comment on rumor or speculation. And I believe for hardware, they had it where they denied it up until like the day before they announced they had a new console coming out. Um, I think it had to do with like 3DS and 2DS and stuff like that. That was going on. But for the next console that they have coming, I really hope that they find a way to allow for the Switch games that I already purchased. Even if it's just only the physical ones, be able to put into the new console and play it. That way, I don't have to have multiple consoles connected to my TV to enjoy it. Because right now, I'm running out of HDMI ports that it's gotten so bad because, when you buy a TV, I think it's generous to say that the majority of them will have like 4 ports that you can plug them into. And I know back in the day, and this will show my age, um, I don't want to go back to Atari. That's a little too far back. But there was a coaxial jack on the back of your old CRT TVs, right? You'd have one. And that's where your cable TV would plug into so you can get your channels, right? Instead of just having local broadcasts that you would have through your antenna. That may also just plug into the coaxial depending on the type of antenna that you had. But what you would end up having to do is, like with the original Nintendo and Super Nintendo, it came with a coaxial connection that would plug in. And then at the end of the adapter, it would have another coaxial that you would plug in the cable TV into. But if you needed to have, say, like a Nintendo and a Super Nintendo connected to your TV because you wanted to play both games available and have it on there, but you also had an Atari and you wanted to have connected, you'd have to kind of like daisy chain all these things into the one coaxial. And depending on which one's connected first, if you had multiples on, one's going to take over which is sending the signal over to your TV. That was one way of getting it connected. The other way was using the RCA jacks, which is that's what I called them, and I think most do. Those are your three cables. You have yellow for your video and red and white for your audio. Red and white, it would be your left and right. So, um, typically on the older TVs, you would have one, maybe two ports that you can plug that into your TV. But you had a VCR, right? At the time, you wanted to be able to watch your videos on your tapes, right? So your VCR could either be attached through coaxial, which isn't going to get you the best picture, or you can plug it in through the RCA ports, right? So if you had your VCR and your RCA, you would have to unplug those in order to plug in your game consoles into the RCA. Unless you had a VCR that had RCA pass through. So basically, that would mean that it would be able to accept input. And the reason for it being able to accept input is so that you could record, um, from typically it would be like a camcorder you would plug into your VCR and put in a tape, and then you recorded, whatever's being played through there onto the tape. But with game consoles, you could plug them in that way. It also made it so you can record what's being played through on the video game console, and then kind of like have it as like a daisy chain, a go-between from your game console to your VCR, and then the VCR to the TV, right? So this is how we used to have to do it. Now we have HDMI ports, which you could buy a HDMI hub where you plug in all your things in there, and then you have one out and that goes to your TV. Those aren't cheap, at least not. I haven't found them that work well that are cheap. Um, but it's a solution for your TVs that don't have it. But then you have cords all over the place, and then you have to keep track of which one is selected, in order to see what's connected on your TV. And right now, I do my recording through a mirror box. That's MIRA box that I picked up, so I can go ahead and capture footage. Other people do it in different ways, but there's just HDMI cords all over the place and connect to the TV. It's just a lot of cords. It's a lot of a chore to go ahead and remove and connect. And with the mirror box, I only have like one connected at a time, and then I have to unconnect HDMI cords to swap out which one I'm recording footage from. So it makes it a pain if I'm trying to get different consoles recorded as far as like gameplay footage. So I'm trying not to release just a bunch of stuff on one console, and then when I switch over the cables, then I'll be recording things that are only on that console. Um, it's I know it's kind of the case because a lot of the stuff I was doing earlier was just what I recorded on Game Pass. I did some PC stuff because I'm able to capture it that way as well. But I'm hoping that with like Nintendo, like I was saying, is able to go ahead and make it so that you can just play those games on the next console. Sure, I'm still gonna have my Switches. We have several in the house that everybody enjoys being able to play it on their own without having to use the TV. But it would be nice just to have a device that has all those games on there, and then I could just play it through on the TV. The other things that I have hooked up right now is like the NES and the Super NES and the Genesis collection, little plug and play boxes that came out a few years ago. and they're great. I love them, but it's still not the same. Um, it doesn't feel the same as like owning the games outright because it's a collection of games that's there, but it's not the same as having something physical that you can have, but you can still continue to play. So that's one of the things I liked about how Microsoft's handled their backwards compatibility, because it's essentially, if I have the old game disc and it's compatible, I just put it on my console. It'll recognize whether or not it's, you know, a physical disc that's in there. It authenticates that I'm the owner of the game, and then I'm able to play it, through emulation. So, other than that, that's what's been going on recently here on the channel. I'll have more videos coming soon, so please, continue to take a look at what I have here. If you have any comments about anything that I've talked about here in this video, I know it's kind of long-winded and has a lot of different places that I went to about different things. Please comment. If you like what I said, give it a like, share it, and if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. If you like these long form videos like this, let me know in the comments as well. Then I'll put more of those types out. Otherwise, I may just be sticking with the toy and video game reviews as I have been. But if you like more of a conversational podcast style type of thing, let me know, and I'll see about making more of those. And I'm not the only gamer in the house, so if there's more interaction you'd like to see in that kind of fashion, I can always get get somebody else to get involved in the conversation. But otherwise, I appreciate you checking out the video, and I hope you have a good one.